Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm going to call to order the May 5th, 2025 regular meeting of the Haywood County Board of Commissioners. If you would, please stand for the pledge. And I'm not sure, what are we doing for invocation, Matt? Did we just do a moment of silence? Okay, we'll do a moment of silence after that. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, no one has signed up to speak this morning. We do not have a public hearing. Does anyone have any constituent concerns they need to touch on? Okay.
Not really a concern, but I would like to say I sent our county manager some photos last week of the cleanup happening there in Clyde off of Thickety Road. And what they are getting out of the river there is, it's substantial. What those trees are just huge, for lack of a better word. And I think it's going to be very helpful as we come into summer's rainy season and into the fall. So they're definitely making big progress there. It's amazing the volume of things that were on that river and in the riverbank that would, eventually have floated down to those bridges and things. So I think it's good. I think it's an improvement, and we have to get the cleanup done before we can start to really recover. So it's a good thing.
Where was that located?
We come across into Clyde, Charles Street, cross the Thickety Bridge, and take a right going up that way on Thickety Road.
Okay, so they're working up the river, maybe?
Yes, and I guess some of those piles, and there were multiple, they were picking up this morning. I would say some of them, like I said, I sent the picture to Bryant, were probably 15 or 20 feet tall. It's crazy how big they were.
Okay,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so doing a good job.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. Anybody else? Okay, I know I had discussed Richland Creek, and I know that SDR has sent out encroachment permits to get into the water. Brian, is that what we call that?
Right of entry.
Right of entry.
Encroachment.
Okay. Okay. So I'm glad that that's happening, because we need to make sure. Okay, I don't have anything else. Okay, we'll move on to administrative agency reports and presentation. Brian, did you want me to move item 1 up in the regular agenda to now?
Please, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to, if that's okay, we're going to come back to Bryant's presentation, and then on the adjustment to the agenda, I'm just going to bump the first item of the regular agenda up, because we've got some judges out here, so. And we're going to talk about recovery court. So we'll go ahead and do that now, because I know you guys got to get back to court. So this is an approval of a proclamation recognizing May 25th as the National Treatment Court Month in Haywood County, the Adult Accountability and Recovery Court Program. So we have do we have the Adult Accountability and Recovery Court Program Coordinator Amanda C. here? Is that right? I'm sorry. Okay. Well, welcome. I think y'all are doing a great job.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to let Judge Leslie read the proclamation.
Okay.
And then I was just going to give a brief update.
Okay.
Good morning. I want to once again thank you all for your ongoing support of our program. As Amanda's going to tell you in just a minute, we are just doing great and changing lives, and y'all are a huge part of that, so thank you. We are respectfully requesting that the commissioners approve the proclamation recognizing May 2025 as National Treatment Court Month in Haywood County. And I'm going to read the proposed proclamation. Whereas, according to All Rise, treatment courts are the most successful justice system intervention in our nation's history for reducing crime by addressing substance use and mental health disorders. And whereas treatment courts save an average of more than $6,000 for every individual they serve. And whereas treatment courts provide a range of economic benefits to a community, such as reduced costs in court and prison expenditures, increased tax revenues, lowered foster care expenses, and decreased costs related to victimization. And whereas treatment courts combine accountability with evidence-based treatment, and whereas treatment courts annually refer more than 150,000 people to life-saving treatment and recovery support services, and whereas, according to All Rise, treatment courts significantly improve substance use and mental health disorder treatment outcomes and prevent fatal overdoses. And whereas treatment courts facilitate community-wide partnerships, bringing together public safety and public health. And whereas there are now more than 4,000 treatment courts nationwide. And whereas treatment courts demonstrate that when one person rises, we all rise. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Haywood County Commissioners proclaim May 2025 as National Treatment Court Month in Haywood County.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Amanda?
You can go ahead, Amanda.
Thank you. For more than 30 years, North Carolina recovery courts have been working to restore the lives of families and have expanded to include adult, family, juvenile, drug courts, mental health courts, and veteran treatment courts. As of February 2025, there are a total of 84 recovery courts serving 46 North Carolina counties. There are more than 4,200 recovery courts in the United States, annually serving more than 150,000 people. Since 1989, recovery courts have served more than 1.5 million people nationwide and have saved billions in tax dollars. We started our recovery court in 2023, and we are now at our current capacity with 15 participants, and we also have a waiting list. We have now had 2 graduates who are still doing excellent, and we have 2 more participants that are expected to graduate in June. Currently, all of our participants are housed and in treatment. On behalf of our recovery court and our participants, we appreciate you so much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where would the treatment be happening at? And you say they're in treatment, so where would that be, facility-wise?
We have the majority of our participants go to Meridian, and then we have some that are going to BHG.
Okay.
We also have inpatient treatments that are in Buncombe County that we utilize.
Okay, now what was the acronym you gave? You said BHT?
BHG, Behavioral Health Group. It is in Clyde.
Oh, okay, so there is something in Haywood County that they can attend?
Yeah, we have Meridian across the street
Right.
here, and then the one in Clyde.
Okay,
And then they also get their medications from the health department or BHG.
okay, all right, very good, okay. Well, I think all of us have some kind of an addiction. It may not be as serious as drugs, but, you know, some of us smoke, some of us overeat, some of us, like me, and some of us, my nephew always said my brother had my son always said that my brother had an addiction to food, you know, because he just can't control that, seems like. But then there's other addictions that we all have, and, you know, we want to point the fingers at drug addicts because that's easy, you know, but everybody needs a second chance, and all of us have issues that we're having to deal with. So if you just look at it at that, you know, we've all sinned, I guess, you know, if you will. So, but I'm glad that this is available to help if it's just 1 or 2, which, you know, that matters. That matters to them, it matters to the families, and then if someone can get to be productive back into our society, that's worth it for sure, you know, where we can add some workers back, you know, that aren't addicted to something. So, but I don't know if anybody else has any questions or comments.
I do.
Go ahead, Jim.
How long, you said you have there've been 2 graduates. I went to the first graduation, and then there's 2 more expecting to graduate. So how long is an individual in the program?
So our program is set up, if you did it day for day, 15 months.
Oh, okay.
We're seeing, we've had them, our last 2 was at 18 months.
Okay.
But we understand that recovery is not going to start at day 1.
Sure.
It normally is not going to start in the first 6 months. It takes about that long for them to really start getting in and believing in the treatment and the support that we're giving them. So we set our probation time up on 2 years to give them that amount of time to help them really get into the program and get started.
That's good, though. They're really committed.
yes.
That's quite a commitment to be 15 months to 24
It
months.
is, it's an
Yeah.
extreme commitment.
That's great. Thank you.
It's the same question I was going to ask, is how long it takes for them to get through the program. So you answered my question. Again, like Chairman said, we appreciate what y'all do. I know if one recovers, it's worth it. I think each one of us has been touched by it in some form or another. I mean, we're all addicted to something, but each one of us probably have family members or somebody we know close to us that's struggling with drug addiction.
Yes.
And we support y'all and we appreciate what you do. So.
We appreciate your support. We sure do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. All right, thank you bunch. Okay. Okay, so can I have a motion we approve the resolution that Judge Leslie read?
Make a motion, we approve the proclamation.
Okay,
Second.
okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. All right, appreciate y'all coming out this morning. I know that was a
Good day.
big sacrifice. Thank you. Okay. Okay, now we'll get back to our regular agenda. Our agenda. We'll do administrative agency reports and presentations, and we have the presentation of the manager's recommended budget for fiscal year 2025-2026. And our county manager, Bryant Moorhead, is here this morning to present that. Welcome, Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. It's nice to be here with a full packed house this morning. Budget season always brings out people in throngs. So. As I go through this presentation, it can be more conversational. Please just interrupt if there's questions you have, concerns. I want to thank Will Scarborough, Don Ramsey, Chris Boyd, Christian Owen, the department heads, and yourselves for as much time and energy as we've put into the budget process this year. So it's not by accident. It takes about 6-7 months to work on all this, and a lot of people's contributions are involved. So this overview will be of the general fund. At the end, I'll feature the other funds that we have budgeted, but just a quick summary. The general fund department's requested a little over $117 million in expenditures. We've whittled that down to right under $112 million. The tax rate is unchanged at 55 cents. The valuation that our property taxes are based on is a little over $10.28 billion. Collection rate at 98.18%. And we need just under $11 million at $10,961,097 to balance the budget. Like I said, we've cut $5.5 million from the requests from the departments. We'll go over that. Most of that is in personnel costs. Give you some idea. A penny for this budget is worth $1,009,930. And last year's collection rate was a little bit higher at 98.29%. So we've given up 0.11% as our collection rate. Property tax is the bulk of our revenue, certainly the revenue that you can control the most. This slide represents not just current year, but prior year taxes. And you can see that it's increasing $60,161, or 0.11%. This is low. I think when I stood before you this time last year, we were growing at about $435,000 in property tax, and I was complaining about it not being enough. So the growth of $60,000 is what we'd say is not even really material. So this is the current year, and you can see real property is actually up a little bit. Motor vehicle is up. The real property, or personal property, I'm sorry, the second group from the left, that's actually down the most. And what they're driving it is we've lost $191,365,000 for the loss of personal property inside the paper mill. Again, that's $190 million. In the real property, we've also lost about $39 million in valuation from Helene damage. So both of those together, we've lost about $230 million in valuation. Give some perspective, the mill impact was about 4.8 times the Helene impact on our tax values. Sales tax, we are leaving flat. For next year, you can see the adopted is 16.3, and the same for next year. The reason behind it is it's fluctuating quite a bit. It's much more difficult to predict sales tax than property tax because of those fluctuations. But you can see we were down, especially September, October. Then we came back. But the red line represents last year's. The current year, we budgeted a 3% increase. And the trend is right now we're only at 2.74% over last year's, this year to date. So while we're looking at ending 6/30/25, about 0.25% under sales tax, we were hesitant to budget any increase next year for sales tax just because of the uncertainty. The funds in green are the county funds, $16.35 million. You can see the blue is the community college's sales tax, and the orange or red is the schools. Both of those are flat as well. Keep in mind, the blue pays, the college and the schools use this money for either capital or debt service. Other taxes and licensing, we've decreased about $196,000. We've got a significant decrease in excise tax for the Register of Deeds. We think we're going to be down $142,500 next year. There's some revenue associated with telecom and a few other things that get us to that decrease of $196,000, but by and large, the bulk of it is Register of Deeds. Positive note, we've got about $29,000 more in PILT and beer and wine. We combine the payment in lieu and taxes from the federal government, and the beer and wine sales seem to be trending up, so we've increased those by $29,000. Restricted intergovernmental, this is an increase of almost $1.4 million. Most of this money, if not all, is related to Health and Human Services, either on the DSS or Health Department side. In this category, we have an increase of about $556,000 for the admin reimbursement. That's money we get back from the state for doing the work at social services and Health Department. We also have state foster care reimbursement and federal foster care reimbursements increasing as well. And I'll talk about foster care on the expenditure side in just a little bit, but we do have more money coming in to help offset the increased costs. Not all of the increased costs, but a good portion. Permits and fees, we have a slight decrease of $75,000. Most of this is related to building inspections, and based on revenue through April 9th, we had only received about 58% of budgeted revenue. We would be expecting to be about 70% in that time frame. So we are lowering that to be more in line with current year, end of year estimates. Sales and service, we actually have an increase there of $353,000. $319,000 of that increase is related to ambulance fees. So that's the bulk of there. Another revenue, and it has become a major revenue over the last few years as interest rates have climbed upwards, are our investment earnings. And you can see we've left it flat. Year to date, or through March, I'm sorry, we actually have generated $3.6 million, so we've exceeded budget by about $850,000 for year to date, but we've left it flat next year to be cautious. I think some of the talk about the Federal Reserve actions next year, likely to lower interest rates, that will have a direct impact on what we generate in investment earnings. So we've left it flat to be, very conservative in our estimates. Miscellaneous, it's a slight decrease of $3,000. Most of this really is donations, so we've seen some decreases in donations for foster care, Meals on Wheels, and then we do have a slight library fines fees decrease as well. So that's kind of an overview of the general fund revenues. Go back and revisit any of those, or would you like to proceed to the expenditure side? All right.
So basically, there's just a lot of uncertainty in the sales tax at this point because of the closure of I-40. So that's
I think you're
affecting the
exactly right.
budget.
I think 40, the Blue Ridge Parkway interruptions, and the tightening of the economy too. I think that
Yes.
a lot of
Yeah.
that is going into what we see in sales tax. And this is not just here. We get reports from the state, and all counties are experiencing the same kind of, maybe not to the extent that we are because of 40 and the Blue Ridge Parkway interruptions, but the state is cooling down as sales tax goes too.
correct, yeah. And, a lot of folks will point, well, they're building all these houses. Well, but the mill basically, I don't know if it even made up for that. Maybe it did a little bit, but we've had some positives, but some huge negatives also. And then with the flood, it's going to be your flood damaged properties. Those are all being analyzed at this point, which is a drop in values, rightly so for those folks. And that's why we put the reval off, is so we could make sure that we get those values correctly. And I will say the state allowed us to do that. We were basically on track to do it, as well as we had to do it because their values are so far out of kilter, if you will, with what's actually being sold in the community. So we have some positive, but we also have some huge negatives.
You're exactly right. We were less than 3 months away from, or right at 3 months away from giving folks new tax values. So we had to scramble and stop that, get approval from the state to extend it, and that's got us a little bit in a bind for sure. Right. You mentioned something, Mr. Chairman, that's interesting. So, like I said, in the loss of the mill values and Helene damage, we lost a total of $230.7 million. But like I said, the growth, we actually had growth in our tax base, even though it's small. So if it hadn't been for that loss, we would have had growth of about $252 million. But we lost all that with the paper mill and Helene. So that's promising when you're growing at $252 million a year, but we don't get to realize that.
Right. Sorry, didn't mean to get you off.
No. I think it's on the expenditure side. It's really the same things that has been driving the budget for the last 5 or 6 years. Salaries, we have to keep good folks in our ranks. I think the challenges that we faced the last few years show having the right people on the bus in the right spot benefits us and the way we serve the community. Operating continues to increase. Every year I'm in front of you, foster care increases, and we'll talk about it a little later on. Of course, the schools and college continuing that. Vehicles, we're always going to replace somewhere in the 16 to 20 range, it seems like, on vehicles. That's our rolling stock. Debt, this is the first full year of principal and interest. We can talk about it when we get to the debt profiles. And then we've added a few folks in for recovery and resiliency so that we can actually get our legs underneath us and try to rebuild our community. On the employee side, we do have a 3% COLA that is effective the first full pay period in July. and then employees will receive up to 2% merit on their anniversary date. All in all, that costs us about $2.3 million. We do have $175,000 in for the Christmas bonuses. We haven't touched longevity or the 401k. And a bit of good news on our medical insurance. Our plan for once is not growing. We've looked at the last few years, we've been under the national average in growth, but this year we think we can hold it flat. We've had a couple of good years of experience. Considering the financial balance we're trying to find, we're holding that flat, and I'm hopeful that we have another good year. The state, the ELGERS, the local government employee retirement system, again going up about 1% for all employees, different levels if it's a sworn LEO, but we have those funds budgeted. Give you some idea, the retirement alone costs us an additional $436,000. So in our pay plan, each percent works out to about $440,000. If it's 1% in retirement, 1% merit or COLA, 1% is about $440,000. We did have 22.5 positions requested this year. If we were to have funded those, it would have been an additional $2 million, and that includes some vehicles with those positions. Salaries alone would have cost $1.74 million. Overall, in the general fund, operating is up only $1.178 million. Foster care is $1,036,000 of that. Now, not all of that is county funds. I mentioned earlier that the federal and state shares going up, but we do have about $172,000 in county money going into foster care for next year. The funding formula for the schools increased our allotment by $444,575, and we gave the college a 3% increase of $102,852. This was short, I think, from the college's request of about $58,000, but 3% is actually more than most of our departments got in operating. So we're trying to take care of the college because they do great work. And then we've got insurance and bonding costs. We've added some square footage at the Armory. We've got the jail expansion project going. We're working on the Russ EMS base. So we've added some square footage, and insurance premiums across North Carolina are up. I'm sure in your own lives you see that. So we've got about a 20% increase in insurance and bonding. Any questions on any of that?
Bryant, what did you say the county share of the foster care increase was? I missed that.
$172,513. Okay. Overall, the schools their funding is at $18.4 million, capital at $1.25 million, and debt at $2.306. The school's debt actually is increasing next year, $539,000. They had some older debt that has a balloon payment, and you'll see that in a slide later on. And the community college debt's actually decreasing $821,000. Mentioned vehicles. This budget includes 18, up from 16 last year. You can see an increase of $283,000. The sheriff's getting about half of those when you factor in everything else. These are vehicles that are all replacements except for the recovery and resiliency vehicle, and that would be, I can't remember if that's a mid-size SUV or a full-size pickup, but we do need to add a vehicle there for the recovery and resiliency folks. Capital replacement. We've got about $450,000 in HVAC repairs, roof shingles, asphalt, and library carpet. You can see those are not new initiatives. That's basically taking care of what we have. Chest compression devices for EMS, those are at their end of useful life, so this makes sure that we have replaced equipment that is in good working order when folks need it. in the existing jail, we have to replace some equipment that's at the end of its useful life. All of this was original to the jail when it was built, so we have a little over $44,000 budgeted there. Forklift replacement. Don and his crew, maybe even Terry had something to do with it, but we drove the forklift into the dirt when we had it at the fairgrounds in Helene Recovery. So this replaces a very old and forklift that's not worth repairing any longer. And then a shed replacement. This is a storage building for Parks and Rec. As they continue to grow, they have more equipment to take care of, and so adding a storage building for about $14,000 is included in the budget. So overall, this is $858,000, and most of it is just replacement, honestly. Okay, I mentioned debt a while ago. You can see the current year is at $2.8 million. Next year we have that full year of principal and interest, so that shoots up to $3.4 million on our side. And then it starts to taper off. You can see the debt profile, and this follows the profile that the LGC establishes for most counties. The school system, you can see, here's that balloon payment I just mentioned. Current year was at 1.7. Next year it jumps up to 2.3, and then it drops off significantly. And then the community college debt, you can see there, it's quite manageable. It's dropping off pretty drastically.
Hey, Brian, go back to the schools again. The school debt, so is that's going to be the end of their, they had a bond that we had, go ahead.
I'm not sure if this balloon payment's related to that. I can pull that out for the public hearing. I'm just not sure exactly what debt is driving it. Overall, it's coming off, though, for sure.
Right. So this is the last year of that big payment for them.
That's
but
right.
They have a lot of needs, and I'm sure they're going to be coming back for maybe even doing a bond, you know. I mean, they're looking at middle school maybe. They're looking at, you know, several things like that, so.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah.
Outlying years, as we're keeping a track on controlling expenditures this year or the upcoming year, we always think about outlying years. So some things to think about, and I'm misstated the number. Each percent is about $471,000. I may have said 440. Health insurance, I think it's pretty atypical that we would have a year that we didn't need to raise our estimates. So in outlying years, we need to consider that. And retirement system number has gone up at least 6 years in a row. Service demands, inflation, those are some of the things that we will fight. Capital replacement, it's going to be really taking care of the vehicles that we have, replacing those, and making sure that roofs and things like that don't leak. Debt, like I mentioned, we got the jail expansion. Last year we ate most of that up from fund balance. Our current year we did. Next year we would pay for that out of the same, that will be our plan, is to pay for the debt out of fund balance. We've talked about library renovation and construction several times. I keep mentioning that, so I want to keep it on the radar screen. That's one of the oldest facilities and is probably in most need of upgrades. We're working through some things on the roof project and HVAC project, and I'll probably be back within the next 2 to 4 weeks to talk to you about those. And then radio system improvement. In Tropical Storm Fred and Helene, our radio systems didn't hold up to what we would have expected. We've been talking internally about working with the state to maybe join the Viper system. So I don't want to alarm you too much, but these are conversations that we're having to think about addressing in the next 2 or 3 years to improve our public safety radio connections. We are working on the tower that will serve the Lake Logan area, but I think joining the state Viper system may give us some redundancy that we desperately need, and make communications for all of our public safety folks better. On the expenditure side, well, and the revenue side, general fund is up just under $5.8 million. When you look at where the changes are, public safety has the lion's share, and that makes sense because we have so many folks there, equipment's expensive, things like that. But in that, we also have recovery court funds. Amanda, the General Assembly gave us the recovery court 2 years ago with funding for 2 years, and after those 2 years were completed, the legislation said that the county shall pick up the cost of recovery court. So we have $140,000 in public safety. We also have a new public defender's office that the General Assembly gave us, and we have a little over $30,000 budgeted for rent. We're required to provide office space for the public defender's office. We don't have any space in this building or at the Justice Center, so we have a lease for the public defender's office, and that will be our contribution for rent and utilities. Health and Human Services is up $1.17 million. Again, a little over $1 million of that is on foster care. The remaining is really towards salaries and benefits. You can see economic and physical development is up a total of $695,000, but we have the recovery and resiliency group in that function, and it's up $735,000. So we've actually decreased some of those costs in economic and physical development. Education, we've covered, that's the schools and the college. Non-departmental is where we budget centrally funds for COLA and merit, so that has increased as well. Central services is up, but those are the things like the HVAC, the asphalt, the forklift, those kinds of things we talked about. There's just not a whole lot in this budget. We've stripped out so much to keep it as flat as we can. But I want to talk about, I don't have but just a few performance measures, but I think we need to highlight the things that we've worked on and what it means when we start managing for outcomes. And this graph is really good. If you look at EMS calls, that's the blue line. You can see since 22, they've shot up to 14.8. But the red line is our response time. And you can see it was higher and it's decreased. So the call volume's up and our response time's getting better. And that's the steps that you all have taken to accomplish this, is adding the BLS units for convalescent transport, working on the armory to have that vehicle in Clyde instead of having to move from Town Hall in the evenings. So we're also working on that Russ EMS space, right? This number should get better after that's up and running. So I think when we start talking about managing for outcomes, this is a really good graph to illustrate accomplishments.
Well, and also that, I think that goes a lot to our EMS leadership, and your leadership too, Bryant, in recognizing and listening to them and bringing that forth to us and everything, so. Well,
honestly, it has to work like a machine. We have to work together to accomplish these things, but you all are the ones that charge us with executing these, and it's working. Maybe not such a promising slide is the number of monthly number of children in foster care. You can see it just continues to grow. So while our numbers grow, that's why the numbers, the budgeted amount continues to grow. So it's hard for me to look at this and offer changes to foster care when it's grown from 92 to 135 in 6 years. Building inspections is another one. You can see, I mentioned we were under for current year, but the number of building inspections continue to increase, keeping that department fully staffed so they can get to those inspections, because I know how important it is for home builders. Time is money. If we don't have inspectors to be able to get out in the field and do those things, it's costing builders money. So staying at the forefront and being able to turn around inspections in quick order is important. this is just changes in classification. You can see, I showed you by function, public safety, general government, those things. But of the 5.6 million, 5.8 million that the budget's up, you can see 3.1 is salaries and benefits, operating is million, capital 871, and debt. And that's the full year of principal interest on the jail, 624. That number would be higher, but we have older debt falling off. I didn't touch on that earlier, but as the county's old debt falls off, the new debt, it minimized the impact. And it was designed that way to try to prevent large tax increase on the citizens. We have to talk about fund balance because it's such a significant part of this year's budget. You can see up through 24, we had a slight decrease. In 21, we budgeted 6.5, and that stepped down all the way to 5.2. When we got to 25, and we had that first year of interest only on the jail debt, we increased that. We also had more capital this year that we funded. But next year, that number shoots up to $10.9 million. It's not without some worry, but the good news is this is our history of the fund balance over the last few years. And you can see we have been very fiscally conservative. We haven't spent money that we didn't, and we've added to our coffers. I was looking and just, if we had all of these issues that we have to address and we were at that, 11% fund balance in 2006, I'm not sure how we would function. We wouldn't be able to have fronted the funds for debris pickup and all of the things that we've done in the last few years. So it's mindful that we have to keep an eye on our fund balance. We can't, you build it up in good times so you can weather these storms, but how long can you weather them is something that we have to work our way through. Questions, concerns on fund balance?
Well, that was one of the things I had was, so last year's fund balance was 46.5. I'm sorry.
6.8.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go to the slide you just had. I'm sorry. I'm asking the question wrong. So 53.9% is our total fund balance. And you guys have done, the staff have done an excellent job in watching after that, and it's really increased. So really, we'll probably, when we draw down this year's fund balance, we're probably, how much is that in millions from last year to this year? I guess that's what I'm asking.
So the red line is our unassigned.
Correct.
Undesignated, unassigned. They change the word every other year. Unassigned is the red line, and it's sitting at about $44 million. That was at 6/30/24.
Right.
Keep in mind, we use 6.8 to balance the budget. I can't tell you for sure how much of that we'll actually use. And then we've appropriated fund balance, especially for debris. So
right. And we're hoping to get that reimbursed, or we're supposed to.
Yes, and our goal will be to get it back by June 30th. So that money is put back in our coffers for the available fund balance calculation, since it's only done at the audit.
Okay, so have we gotten reimbursed at all from FEMA?
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Well, FEMA reimbursements are tricky because each project has to go into a project workbook. I think they just call it a PW. And so that project sort of needs to be finalized, wrapped it up, put a bow on it, and send in for reimbursement. Because we haven't finalized our roadside debris and some of the other things, unless I'm wrong, we haven't submitted any of our project workbooks to FEMA. But the counties that have, the reimbursements are timely. It's not nearly like it was for Tropical Storm Fred. So I don't feel like there's any huge glitches in the reimbursement process with FEMA.
Brian, if I remember right too, is 50% of that comes back quicker? Do I remember that correctly, or am I thinking of something else where half of that comes back to us quick, and then after the project's done, maybe we get the rest of it?
They sort of. They had I can't remember the name of the program, and it was sort of this rapid refund program, if you will, that we give them our estimates, and they give us half that money so we can go ahead and get to work. Early on, that was working. It was less than a week that most counties were getting half of that money for debris back. There's been a few changes at the federal government, and that's now taken 45 to 60 days. So I don't consider it like a rapid refund program anymore. Okay, moving away from the general fund, we do have some other funds that is in the budget ordinance, and that is in your folders for consideration. The health insurance fund is staying flat at $14.1 million. Workers' comp staying flat at $517,000. Separation allowance flat at $65,000. 911 fund is $578,000. That's an increase of $80,000. And the 911 funds are sort of maddening. Sometimes they'll let things be eligible, and then they'll deny them. Several times you'll see us make budget amendments based on things that the state has kicked back. So this year, we've increased it $80,000. Hopefully, everything that we've budgeted will be approved through the 911 board. And solid waste actually is a decrease of $40,343. The other funds, the school's debt and the college debt, based on budgeting, we're leaving those flat because the sales tax comes in that I showed you into those funds, and then it pays for capital or for debt service. So we're leaving those flat, but like I said, their debt payments are actually dropping. So whatever additional revenue comes into that fund will be reserved for their use, and it's always, kept segregated for audit purposes. Some of the new funds that we've had to create over the last few years, the Register of Deeds recording fees, those are staying flat. Fines and forfeitures, flat. The representative payee, flat. But the occupancy tax, we actually have a decrease of $500,000. There's about 3 months left, and we've only collected about $2 million in occupancy taxes, so we're hedging that we're going to see a slight decrease of $500,000. But on $3 million, that's a significant percentage. Road District Fund is a slight increase. One road district, Sugar Valley Springs, would like to take their tax rate from 12.5 to 12, but that will actually generate an additional $172 for them next year. Fire District Fund, a total of $7.1 million, but we do have some departments making requests. Center Pigeon from 9.5 to 10 cents, Crabtree 7.5 to 10, Crusoe 9 to 10, Maggie Valley 8 to 10, Clyde 9 to 10, and Jonathan Creek 7 to 10. Those requests were received last few weeks. It seems to us everyone has had their public meetings, and these are the requests from their separate boards. Junaluska Sanitary District, they're leaving their tax rate flat at 10 cents, but it does yield an increase of about $8,912. Any questions on those separate funds? Anything that you'd like to revisit from the county's general fund, revenues, expenditures? Okay. The budget is available online. That's probably the folks' greatest resource, but we do have copies that will be available here with the Office of the Clerk and at the library, and it will be on the website as soon as Haven posts it for us. Right? Next steps, would like to call for a public hearing at our next meeting on the 19th at 5:30. We'll publish the notice of that public hearing in the Mountaineer on Wednesday. And then you could consider adoption on the June 2nd meeting at 9 a.m. Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything else unless there's something from the board.
No, I don't have anything. Anybody? Any questions? Okay.
Excellent. Thank you all.
appreciate the fact that, of the work everybody's done, and as well as, I know Bryant always makes sure that we have plenty of time to consider it. You know, we don't wait till the last minute or call a special meeting to approve it, so I appreciate that, Bryant.
Say that we've all had individual meetings with the county manager and gone over, and Will, the analyst, and gone over really every line item by line item. So we're not seeing it for the first time either. So.
Right.
Just, I know you've already sat down, Bryant, but on the revow, you know, with the flood and we put the revow off, could you just revisit our schedule for the future on when we may institute that?
Yeah, so our values were, we were supposed to have new values on January 1st, 2025. The hurricane hit, so we've extended that. So the new values will be established January 1st, 2027. So, yeah, there's quite a bit of work to do. A lot of it will have to be revisited, but Judy's folks are up to it.
Well, I know the projection was for the revow that the average property increase would have been about 38% over what it was. I've got a commissioner friend in Wilkes County. They went 8 years between revows, and they are kind of in a hornet's nest because of that. Their property values in Wilkes County, I was looking, with the 8-year span between revows, their average property value increase is 75 to 80%. That's the average. And so, you know, the property values in the western part of the state, it becoming a retirement destination, and we all know what property values have done recently. You know, it's more than a sticker shock when you go that far between revows and see the massive increase. So, January 1st, 2027.
Clarify something for me. When we were looking at the growth of property, I guess the taxable value, even without the mill, you said we had seen an increase, is that correct, of the taxable value?
Yes.
Of 250 million?
Exactly. We would have a little over $250 million worth of increases if we had not lost that $230 million from the mill and Helene. And that was about $190 million from the mill and $40 million from Helene.
And so here's the things that kind of stood out to me, just that, you know, obviously growth is, we want to be mindful of our growth, but that's encouraging, I guess, because as we move past this most recent catastrophe, it's good to see that we are growing, I think, and that we, you know, the income from the ambulances, I think that's something that we all worked really hard on. We were concerned about response time, and we've all voted to put those extra buses on there and the employees that go with it. I think that's a positive. That our insurance on the employee insurance, I'm an old insurance agent, so to see that remain flat, that is from really, I promise y'all, the premiums are not going down. It is because we're managing that program well with, you know, health programs with our employees and, you know, trying to keep our staff healthier. I think that's an encouraging thing. And then that we've improved capital square footage with EMS base and armory, which we used for a shelter during Hurricane Helene. All of those things are beneficial to our community. And that the retirement continues to grow up. You said the retirement amount had gone up over the last 6 years. And you know what that says to me? It's a good place to work. Yeah. People are retiring. They're staying and they're retiring here. So retiring from the county. So I understand that there's, you know, we're getting into the fund balance, which is, like you said, we save it for a rainy day. But I think all of those things are positive, and, you know, it looks like we're managed in the right direction.
Yeah, just to add to that, too, that's why we're trying to hold on to our merit and our COLA. You know, I think as we all sit down with the county manager, that was something that's important to us, that we take care of our employees, because they're important to us. We've done the pay study, and we don't want to get behind again. And even though in a tight budget year or season, we all felt like it was important that we do that, plus the Christmas bonus, even though we've had all this other, the distractions, I guess, from the mill closing and the storm, and foster care increases up, just everything you just suggested, you know. But again, that was something that's important to us. We like taking care of our employees. And we want to, saying that, I'd like to thank our staff and all of our leaders in each one of our departments. I know that most of them requested, staff increases, and we're not giving any of those. It's not because we don't want to, it's just because the budget's pretty tight this year, and we appreciate everyone pulling together. Even though the workload's increased, I know that you guys pull together and do what you got to do. I know I see it at HHS, DSS. Those folks out there work extremely hard and go above and beyond what they're required to do. I see it in law enforcement. See it all the way across our county. So special thanks to our employees for hanging in there during a tough budget season, maybe next year.
Thing, I'm tickled to see that we're getting some improvements set aside for the library. That's a very important, I appreciate that. It's a very important service in our community, and a lot of people use it. Utilize not just the ability to check out books, but all of the, they have all sorts of online programs and in-person classes and things like that. So I appreciate the support for the library.
Anybody else got any comments? Did you have something? Okay. Tommy's grinning like he's got something to say, but he's not. Okay. Okay, so if that's all, I'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions on the two items on the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion. We approve it.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. That concludes our agenda. We kind of skipped around a little bit, which is a rarity that we do that, but we needed to get our judges back to court because Monday mornings are always busy. Does anybody have anything else we need to?
I would like to say that last meeting we had several commissioners here, myself included, talking about the debris pickup and some places that had been neglected, and there has been progress made since the last meeting. I appreciate your efforts to contact the folks that I gave you some addresses to have it picked up. It's been picked up, and they were very appreciative, so I want to say thank you for that.
Okay. And along the debris pickup, Bryant, so Jennifer had shared some pictures with us of the debris. Do we know what areas of the river they're focusing on right now?
For the most part, still on the Pigeon side, from the Crusoe and the West Fork. They haven't started in any meaningful way on the other watersheds just yet.
Okay. I think it's mainly Crusoe to Clyde, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much the area that they're working on.
on.
And you can drive down 110 and look over in the field there just before you get to my shop, and you'll see a large debris pile that they've took out of the river. I mean, it's pretty long and tall as well that they're working on. Yeah.
And that's like wood?
Yeah, most of it's wood. I seen a pile yesterday, for example, that was metal. It was just
like
metal that they had piled up.
Cars and appliances and stuff like that? Okay. Okay. Well, good, because that it seems like when the leaves were down, you could really see the debris in the river and how big it was. And then with what Jennifer has shown that they pulled out, and I bet that wasn't across a big area. I mean, I bet that was just right there.
So the original, if I understand correctly, the original agreement was for 1,000 feet from an improvement, so a bridge, I guess, or a building. And then, infrastructure. And then if they were to see something, just 1,005 feet, they could get permission to get that picked up as well. And it's really been great to watch that cleanup down there. It's hard for me to visual what 1,000 feet would look like on that river, but it's really come pretty far back up thickety, so,
Okay, good.
yeah, it's an improvement for sure.
Well, I'm glad of that. I was in Asheville this weekend, and there was the Swananoa River. You know, it was, I can't believe how high it got in Biltmore. But anyway, the Swananoa River is clean up through there. There's no vegetation or anything along that river. So all I saw was a piece of trash every now and then, and that may be there from since they picked it up. So they're doing a good work. They've done a good work in Buncombe County, so we need to, you know, we need to get it done here. So, but I'm hoping that they'll get as much as they can, because some of those really big trees are not going to stay there on the next storm, and they'll definitely stop something up. Thing about it is, you know, we noticed in Crusoe they had cleaned up after Fred. They were almost cleaned up from that. And I saw very little in the helicopter when we flew over. We saw very little debris that was in that area, in the Crusoe area. I think I saw one or two trees occasionally that had washed in Crusoe, but nothing like the other areas where that was not done. So it'll be good when we get all that cleaned up.
And just to add to all that as well, this is just for the emergency side. We'll go back later on and clean the rest of the river. And I hate to be the guy with the bearer of bad news, I guess, but still on the roadside, we've got to be sure that we get these small, where they picked up piles, there's still some debris that's left. I think Commissioner Long and I pass those daily. And the grass is starting to grow up. You can't see it as much, but I worry that when they mow it, it's going to scatter it more. So even though they're doing a great job on the river.
No, I understand.
I agree, they're doing a great job there, but there's still these little small debris sections we need to get picked up.
Okay, very good. Okay, anybody else see anything? Okay, I'll entertain a motion, we adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Second. So that's Jennifer and Tommy. And all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. Everybody be safe out there. Thank you.